Welcome back to Colors or Crutch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I'm joined by the most incredible co-host that's ever existed on planet Earth, on Mars, on Venus, on anywhere in the solar system or the universe, Max P, the Florian guy. How you doing today, Max?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. It's been it's been a week and it's only Wednesday.
Yeah.
I just got back from a work trip down to Tennessee yesterday. So I basically flew into Tennessee on Monday night, then spent all day Tuesday talking to customers, presenting stuff, doing my job, and then most of the night taking them out, wining them, dining them, feeding them steak dinners, doing that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a rough life.
It was hard. And then eventually go back to the hotel, crash up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and flew back here this morning. So
and here you are.
I'm like, wait, what are we doing?
Ready
doing
to
a
send
podcast?
it.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, and neither of us, our schedules have been crazy this week. I've been working a lot. I've been rock climbing a lot, so we do not have the most time. So this is going to be a speed run episode because this is one we just had to fit in a time slot for this week. The normal time slot did not work. Some important updates that we will give. Playmats are here. Shipping tubes are here. I have both of them. They're literally right behind me. They look fantastic. I'm super excited about it. The playmats came out better than I could have imagined. They're so thick, so nice, like really, really good stuff. My schedule is super crazy the next coming days, so I'm gonna try and start shipping them out, but it's going to be a little difficult. And there's so many of them that they're not gonna all happen at one time. They're gonna kind of happen in a process. I'm going to do my best here. I promise. They are coming. They are happening. All of the good things. They are here. There's no more concerns about any of that. Yeah, so all of that is super, super good. Other homework, really cool stuff coming up. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. Both of us are going to be at Punt City 3 up in Philadelphia. That's going to be an awesome event run by Top Deck, the most amazing sponsor that ever was. Super excited to see everybody. Super excited to meet everybody. Definitely come up and say hi to us there when you see us. After that, 2 weeks later, I'm going to be down in Orlando, Florida for Salt Fest run by the Salt Monolith. Excited to go hang with Manila Midget and the crew for a weekend. That event looks like it's going to be absolutely awesome. And then I'm super hyped to talk about this really fun event I went to down at Iron Lion Collectibles down in Colorado Springs is what I'm going to be going over today rounds wise. Did you want to go over your tournament as well?
I'll just mention it for it. I'll just mention it briefly, just so just in terms of what happened. Yeah, I did a small tournament over the weekend as well. It was just 25 people showed up, so it was just really tiny local game store event. I did fine. It was 3 rounds. I won 1, drew 2, made the top 10 cut, which was fine, and then lost in the semifinals, unfortunately. But nothing crazy, no crazy rounds, nothing that was outlandish. The Kinnan game was wild. I got off to a start that was this is just my top 10 game. I got off to a start that was turn 1 Blood Chief's Ascension, turn 2 Talion, turn 3 Wandering Archaic, and then held the game down for a really long time, and then eventually it just got picked apart just in time for the next player in turn order to take the win on Kinnan. What about you? How'd you end up?
Overall good. We'll go through the rounds in a second. I went undefeated in Swiss on Talion again. I decided to bring back Talion the Kindly Lord for my second event ever with the deck. Didn't make any of the changes we talked about. I ran the same active Waterboarding is Back baby list. Still interested in trying out some of the changes. I'm so concerned about mana efficiency when it comes to adding back in stuff like Wandering Archaic, but I definitely see the value in it. And it will kind of make sense also talking through my rounds. There are some moments I do wish I had an effect like that. But also was able to fight through some fun stuff. Should I just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, round 1.
Early morning. Well, early morning drove down to Iron Lion. Not a bad drive from Denver. It was 45 minutes. Not too bad at all. Store was a really nice space. They had really good tables. They had really big tables, which I appreciated. One of the things you notice with a lot of stores is they kind of shove everyone together. So if you're playing in a pod right next to someone, my knee might be touching theirs because they're just so close together and packed in to fit all these people for these events. But they had these really nice big wooden tables that were accessible for use for a lot of the pods. So it was super, super nice. Good space, good place. And the judge's name was David. Specifically did not want to be called Dave. That was very important. Discovered he's also a fantastic singer with a low bass voice, but he was probably one of my favorite judges I've ever had an event. Dude was just really loud, really pronounced, really nice guy. Definitely enjoyed his company and his view on things and kind of how he handled judging that event. So I was a big fan of that overall. But yeah, jumping into round 1, I think I was going second, or was I going fourth? I don't even remember. Round 1 was weird. All I remember was the people in the pod. I'm on Talion, obviously a control deck. We had another guy who's known in the area, Taylor, running. It was Tevish Ishai, which is historically known as kind of like a humility style deck. He wasn't on humility, but he was definitely an Esper control version of the deck. I do not remember what deck the person to my right was playing, but I know the other deck at the table was OG Narset with Jacob, a guy who's had a lot of success in the deck. Just send it, extra turns, big value, good stuff. And I looked at my opening hand here. I think it was my first 7, and the only mana source was a Cabal Pit. It had an Imperial Seal, and it had a Rhystic Study. So in my brain, I'm like, if I top deck any land on turn 1 that produces blue mana, this is easy turn 2 Rhystic by Imp Sealing for a Mana Crypt. And I decided to say, take the risk and send it. Kept that hand. Top deck for turn 1 was a Spire of Industry, which was perfect because that makes blue with the Mana Crypt on board that I could play the following turn. Taylor had a turn 1 Fish. I had a turn 2 Rhystic, and I said, let's work together and control this board. And we did successfully. Narset was immediately a threat. We ended up using a board wipe on it. It did get 1 attack in that had 2 spells that needed to get countered. It was another combat and an Aminatou Zagri. He countered 1, I countered the other. We worked through things here, dealt with the table as we needed to, and I eventually got to that place that I was able to assemble a Hullbreaker Horror line. Again, one of the things I love about Talion, the politics of it, is, I have 9-10 cards in hand, and people are pointing at me like they're so afraid, they're like, he's going to win the game, and I'm literally revealing my hand and being like, but I can't. But I'm also revealing like force, misdirection, and other things, and I'm like, neither can you. It's funny it's funny to just reveal the cards and be like, don't go for it, because then I don't even have to use these, which is awesome. When I got my Hullbreaker Horror on the battlefield on the turn that was my winning turn, it caused a little bit of drama in this pod. I really wish that this was like a recorded game I could hear the game audio from to know what I said, to kind of like understand where their perspective on this came from, because I knew in my brain what I meant. But when I went infinite with Hullbreaker Horror, having Mana Rocks, having the One Ring, having a Imposter mech of a Displacer Kitten on the battlefield as well, and I just said, do you guys, what I think I said was, do you guys want to scoop it up? I'm able to do Protected Thoracle and all that kind of stuff. Like, are you good to scoop it up? And immediately Taylor was like, okay, so cut to that. Your deck is in your hand. Like you're putting Thoracle in the stack. And I'm like, well, no, like that's not what I'm saying. Like, I would never do that. And he was like, you just presented that as a shortcut, and we're accepting that shortcut to that point. And I'm like, that is not what I was trying to present. I was trying to just give you guys the opportunity to scoop it up here. Because if you've ever played with me and talked to me about Talion, you know the last thing I ever go for is Thoracle. I do a million other things to win the game safely first. So I would never cut to that position. So I don't know what words I exactly said. I know what I meant. And like, if I said something that was like, I would like to present this exact shortcut to this position, or somehow close enough to that, I apologize. That is in no way what I meant when I said it. I was just saying like, hey, obviously I have infinite here and I can deal with everything. The reason he wanted me to shortcut to it was because he had an Angel's Grace in hand. But like, if anyone ever tells me to play it out there, I'm not just shortcutting to Thoracle. I will always, which what I ended up doing was casting I drew a bunch of cards off the One Ring, drew like 20, got a bunch of counter spells, had my infinite mana. So I was like, okay, I would like to cast this Mnemonic Betrayal, get back your Bowmasters, because mine was already in the yard. And then from that position, I could play my Sakashima the Imposter as a Bowmasters and blink it back and forth, which is absolutely what I would do there, even if no one had said anything and I wasn't asking if they'd shortcut and I could just play it out. I always go for Bowmaster loops first with Hullbreaker, and then somehow if that gets stopped, then eventually there's a Thoracle option. But like, yeah. So I did win that game. They were a little frustrated by that, but it's moment for conversation. Comment what you think below.
I mean, again, I guess you've ever played. I guess the issue I have, the issue I always have with that is you still have Time Twister in your deck. You still have, you still have everything. So even if you shortcut it to that point. Like I put Thassa's Oracle on the stack and he cast Angel's Grace. Okay, cool. You cast Angel's Grace. Okay.
Oh, I still win anyway.
Yeah, you still get the Orcish Bowmaster, put it into play, clone it, deal infinite damage to everyone else. And then you Shieldred, drain him, put him in the negatives and pass turn. Right, you still win.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of options. Which what he said also was it didn't matter because I had the Displacer Kitten copy, so I cast any spell on anyone else's turn and just blink Thoracle. Yeah, so it didn't matter, but just that little misunderstanding with the wording of what I was offering to present caused a little bit of controversy. But the end result would have been the same either way. I win round 1. We move on from there. Round 2, I was I on the play or was I going fourth? I think I was on the play. It was myself on Talion. Next seat was Tivit. Or I think I was going fourth. I believe I was going fourth for this one. Yeah, Tivit was first. I was fourth. And so it went Tivit into Thras Vial, into Rowan, into me on Talion. And I kept a hand that tutored for and played a turn 2 Rhystic Study, pretty much the same as before. Tivit had a turn 1 fish, drew an absolute nutload of cards. And after I got my Rhystic Study down, I had, I think, 1 black mana up specifically. I had exactly a swamp up. And so on turn 3, Thrasfile just sends it. You know, they have Dockside, they have the tutor for Temur Sabertooth, and I'm looking at Tivit like, my guy, you've got everything in the world in your hand. What do you mean that you're just letting this happen? And he's telling me, so he resolves the Temur Sabertooth from the Eldritch Evolution, he bounces back his Dockside, he tries to recast his Dockside. And from here, I'm like, bro, there's no way you have nothing. And he's like, I have nothing. And I show him my Demonic Consultation is my only piece of interaction hand. And I'm like, convince me to use this. And I'm like, I would like to see your hand. Right. And he shows me his hand, and his hand was just the win. He drew the I win side of Tivit. And so I was like, that's awkward, because you just showed me a completely deterministic win in your hand while this is on the stack. And so from there, I readjusted. I'm like, okay, like for me to use this now, I don't want to king make, so we have to make a deal. So we end up making a deal to buy me a couple of turns, which is like still a higher EV than just losing to one of them. I still probably lose to Tivit if I do this, but I'm like, okay, I get a couple turns to try and top deck and find something. So I go for that line. And I cast a Demonic Consultation, and I name Mindbreak Trap to exile the Dockside. And Mindbreak Trap is like 8th from the bottom. I exile my whole fucking library. And so as I'm getting down to last cards, I'm like, oh, at this point I'm just offering a draw. And I get the Mindbreak Trap, and I hold the Mindbreak Trap, and the Thrasvile's like, you guys made a deal to just buy turns. Why would you go back on that deal? I'm like, yeah, but I made the deal. So if I tell him he's allowed to win, I'm allowed to tell him that. Like, you can't tell him he's allowed to win. He made the deal with me. But if I give him, it's a deal between the two of us. You have no bearing on it. Yeah. And so what I said is, here's the situation with this Mindbreak Trap. We 100% to lose to Tivit here, because the only out to Tivit was me, and so I don't have that now. So either you accept this draw, or I'm going to Mindbreak Trap your Dockside and let Tivit win. And Tivit's obviously going to accept this draw, because otherwise I'm letting your Dockside go. Mm-hmm. And so we ID'd the game 10 minutes in. It's not a very exciting round 2, which, like, obviously that's just like whatever, but I don't know. It's correct to do. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's correct.
Some people can get mad about it if they want. Round 3 was interesting. Round 3 we had, well, let's see if I can remember these. We had it was Thrasios Ishai or something. It was a Bant Thrasios deck. I think it was Thras Ishai, maybe Thrasyoshi. I think it was Thrash Ishai. To the left of me, and then we had Timna Thrasios angled across from me into Abadiadu Lunari from the Play to Win Discord on Dargo Timna, and myself on Talion, of course. This pod was very interesting. We went to a spot where I had interaction, and I was like very clear about it, and Timna Thrasios played a silence on like turn 3 after drawing a few cards. After specifically saying, oh, I can't win right now, before his turn. And then he was like, drew into the other half. And I was like, oh, so you just have the Oracle Consult? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, cool. I have the answer for this, just to be very real with you. And then we know that Timna Dargo is set up to do some shit as well. And so I talked him out of going for it, where like he would have gotten stopped 100% with my hand. There's no way it gets through there. And so then we just lose to Timna Dargo is pretty much the thought process there.
Right.
So he passes, which creates this like game of chicken now, where we know he has deterministic win in hand, and we know that Timna Dargo is set up to do something cool with a win in hand. And so what I do on my next turn is I end up tutoring, and I grab the card and I say, I'm going to show it to this guy, the Bant Thrasios player next to me, so you guys know I'm not going for a win here. Show him a Trick Bind. So he knows I have Trick Bind interaction. And then we kind of go through this game of chicken as I'm just slowly drawing a lot of cards and getting down like an Oppo to stop things and some other stuff like that. End up with a Bowmasters on the board. Like, I'm just slowly developing my board state while holding up just absolutely nutty amounts of interaction. And I'm starting to get towards that point in mana where I'm like, okay, it would be pretty cool if I could start going for a Hullbreaker thing. But it's also awkward because I know that Timna Thrasios has multiple counterspells in hand. I've been sharing interaction information with the bank guy to the left of me, so I know he has a Beseju and a Touch the Spirit Realm in hand, and I know from conversations talking about the Oppo that the Timna Dargo player has removal as well. And so when I end up passing the turn, like, I play a Wish Claw and I pass the turn with a bunch of mana, because I'm like, I'm not going for shit this turn. So, and there's like 30-something minutes left on the clock. So I'm looking at my hand, and my hand was, when I passed it as 7 cards, 6 counterspells and Demonic Consultation.
Jesus.
Including a Trick Bind, right? So we end up passing. The Bant Thrasios player was also a little mana screwed all game. Timna Thrasios, once again, is like, okay, I can't really go for it. They pass with a bunch of mana up. Timna Dargo kind of does the same thing. And they're drawing me a couple cards along the way because I have a fish out at this point. And the last thing Timna Dargo plays, some random rock or something, he's even considering paying for the fish because he just has a bunch of extra mana. And I'm like, you can do it if you want, man. Like, whatever. He decides, nah, you're fine. You can draw the card. I draw Hullbreaker Horror. So I'm like, okay, sick. I had 6 mana up at this time, so I wasn't able to immediately play the Hullbreaker Horror, which I think was correct anyway, knowing about the Touch the Spirit Realm and removal. And so I was like, I wouldn't be able to hold up my counter. So I was like, okay, cool. I just wait till my turn. So I untap on my turn. Fish trigger on the stack. I play Hullbreaker Horror. Obviously uncounterable. They gotta let it go. And then I'm trying to think of if there is a way to actually send this, because I just have a bunch of interaction in hand, but I also know that they all have interaction. And I look at the clock and it's like a little under 30 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, honestly, if I send this right now with this interaction battle, one of 2 things is happening. I'm winning the game or we're drawing, because there's no way that this isn't going to take the full time on the clock. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's ball and see if we can actually get there through everyone's revealed interaction. And so the first thing I do is I actually crack the Wishclaw, and I get Spellskite.
Yes, 100%.
100% and they let the Spellskite go. They let the Spellskite resolve. They should not have let the Spellskite resolve. So huge mistake. And that also gave me a rock. So then I try to begin my loop, and the fight begins. And we're talking so much fight here. The best one was they tried to Beseiju the Spellskite so they could get in removal from the other player. Meanwhile, this whole time as well, there was a Goblin Bombardment on Dargo Timna's board, and I have my Bowmaster out. And I know in my brain that I need him to not Bombardment my Bowmaster, which was part of why I went for Spellskite, because he had instant speed removal for the second I tried to do anything Bowmaster related. So I was like, cool, I just need this Spellskite to resolve. So I get the Spellskite to resolve. The fight begins. He tries to Beseiju the Spellskite so they could do stuff. I hit him with the Trick Bind he knew about on the Beseiju, which felt so fucking good. And then he tried to offer something else, which took him off the mana to be able to touch the Spirit Realm. So I was like, cool, I'm safe from that one. I go through like 3 counter spells out of fucking Timna Thrasios. Like, we have this absolutely ridiculous 20-something minute interaction battle as I'm just fighting through everything they have to offer. I've already bounced all my mana positive rocks back to my hand, so I'm starting just to bounce random shit on their board with the Hullbreaker triggers, get the Goblin Bombardment off the board in case, all that kind of stuff, just to be safe here. And it goes all the way to a point where, like, I hit him with a Fluster to deal with a bunch of things, and then I hit him with, he has the Mindbreak Trap as the last thing. And I'm like, okay, I can't just bounce that back to hand with a Hullbreaker trigger, so I have to send this Demonic Consultation as the last card in my fucking hand. And name Force of Will, which I should have just named my own Mindbreak Trap, which both would have been fine. But in my brain, I'm like, I already have the Bowmaster on board. I don't need any cards in my library. I don't care what I exile. So I just named Force of Will. I get it with the Demcon. I Force of Will to MBT. They say, okay, Fluster resolves everything else, and then I go on the infinite loop to win the game. I look back at the clock. There's like 3 minutes left.
Yeah, it's just barely.
But we got there,
basically.
Yeah, we got there. Round 3. Round 4, so there's one guy in this local meta, super talented player named Tyler, who the only deck he plays is Arkham Daxon. And I've heard about this guy from a bunch of people. He's a super good player, like consistently makes top 16 on it, like very, very talented guy. Ended up winning this whole event actually. And I'd never gotten to play against him. And we got to our pod and he was like, "You want an ID?" And I was like, "No, I want to play against you."
Nice.
Turns out someone else from the pod had to play anyway. They only had 6 points, but it was like, I was like, nah, let's send this, bro. I want a game. So we play this game and it ends up where it's on the play as Blue Farm. I'm in second seed in Talion. Going third, we have Mary Pippins, whatever it is, a Lord of the Rings partner pair that's Abzan and cares about tokens. And I was talking to this guy earlier in the day about his deck. And I was like, how does this get there? Like, honestly, how does this get there? He goes, straight up, Mirkwood Bats.
Oh my god!
And I was like, because the deck just makes a shitload of tokens.
I mean, yeah.
And I was like, there's no way that gets there. And he was like, you'd think so, but it does. And then he won 2 games before our pod, and I talked about those tables, and they were both just like fucking Mirkwood Bats, man. Like it just murdered both tables.
That's wild.
So it actually works, apparently. It actually does work. So this game was hilarious because Blue Farm keeps a 7. Abzan deck goes to 6. Me and Tyler both mulled a 3 and 2. Which I technically mulled to 4, but I mulled to 4 with a gemstone. Yeah, so I mulled to 4 with a gemstone, so it was technically like a mull to 2. He mulled to 3. My hand I kept was land, card to pitch, like gemstone, card to pitch, land, Felwar Stone. So my thought process was top deck a land in the first 2 turns. I get turn 2 Talion.
Right.
That was my fight back into the game, and he kept a terrible like 2 land and a rock 3. You know, we both just couldn't find jack shit for hands. So me and him are on the same page this whole game of like, we're playing for the draw. And we offer a draw every turn of this game. And it was so funny. I couldn't draw a land for shit, bro. I could not draw a land. I ended up imposter meching a Silvermere.
Oh my god.
To just be a blue mana rock.
Oh my god.
I couldn't draw it. But then yeah, like I got out. And meanwhile, Abzan is just developing this like ridiculous board state. Blue Farm's drawing cards and doing the blue farm thing. You know, me and him are just like, we're here, I guess. And we're just like slowly developing absolute bullshit board states. Where finally I get out Talion eventually. And then I actually get to the spot after like a bunch of turns that I've got 6 mana and like 5 cards in hand. And I'm like, okay, Talion fight back. That's good. That's good. And I have a Tishana's Tidebinder in my hand. So I'm talking the Abzan player out of using his One Ring a little bit. Because I'm just going to counter the trigger, and I'm like, I'm threatening him with the Tishana's Tidebinder. I'm like, I need to save this for blue farm. Don't make me use it. I'm not letting you draw 5 cards right now. Like little shit like that. That's the best thing in Control. Show people the interaction, convince them so you don't even have to use it. That's the best thing you can do. And we get to this really awkward state where, you know, everyone's getting low in life between Talion triggers, and, you know, the Abzan player's got a Disciple Default, and he's got a Cauldron Familiar, all these little things that are just pinging for life.
Uh-huh.
So Blue Farm, when he goes on this breach line on the turn that he's supposed to win the game, gets pretty fucking low. And he finally gets low enough to a position where I've been counting, and I'm like, the instant speed damage we have is Disciple Default's on board. He has a food token to sack the food to trigger Disciple. That's 1 damage to Blue Farm. Get back the Kitten. ETB is a 2nd damage to Blue Farm. And Arkham Dagson, even though there's an Oppo on Blue Farm's board, can still sacrifice an artifact to tutor, get us another Disciple ping. So I'm like, the magic number is 3. The magic number is 3. And Blue Farm realizes this when he's at 4. And so we're like, fuck. We've all been like looking at each other like, is he gonna do it? We all see it. And Blue Farm ends up doing a thing where he's like, okay, Pyroblast the Talion, and then like Chain of Vapor the Disciple of all, and like deal with all these things. And with the Chain of Vapor on the stack, when we're thinking of if we have any outs now, the Abzan player finally digs deep enough to Big Brain, and he's like, fuck, I can hold priority on the cat's ability and keep sacking food to get more triggers.
Holy shit. Yeah.
So to get more Disciple Default triggers, because he had 3 food. So he just did that.
Right.
And we kill Blue Farm. And I tell Blue Farm, I'm like, with that last damage on the stack, I cannot win. Here's my hand. Show him a hand that does nothing. The only relevant card in it is Mnemonic Betrayal, but the graveyards are non-existent because Blue Farm's dead on the stack. His graveyard was the only one that mattered. Arkham Dagson has like a Silver Mirror in his graveyard, and the Abzan deck has a Cauldron Familiar and a Jeweled Lotus. Like there's no graveyard, so the meme bet's irrelevant. And I'm like, I understand you're about to die. We are playing for the draw now. That is good for you as well. Use your last red mana that you have right now. He has exactly 1 red mana floating. Pyroblast that fucking Arkham Dagson. And he's like, okay, that's fair. And he does it, and then it passes to me. I can't do shit. Abzan can't do shit. Arkham Dagson can't do shit. We draw. And right as the game ends, he goes, you're an asshole. If he didn't Pyroblast my Arkham Dagson, I had instant speed win.
Wow. Yeah.
He had the dramatic Versal in his hand to go off.
Yep.
And so he 100% just won at instant speed over everything the second Blue Farm died. So the call on Pyroblasting the Arkham was 100% correct. So we get that game to a draw. And then round 5, I'm against Temujin and people, and it was just a pod that we were like, cool, we draw, right? Like, we're all at like 12, 11 points, completely set. So we drew that game, even though I was on the fucking play. And yeah, I went into top 16 at 2-0-3, undefeated again, and the 3rd seed overall. It went a guy who ended up with 3 wins, who had to play his last round. We had Tyler, who was tied with me, the Arkham Daxon player, in 2nd, and then I was the 3rd going into top 16. My top 16 pod was interesting. Fortunately, obviously, I get to be on the play. We love being on the play. So on the play on Talion, we've got Thras Vile, the same one from the draw game in round 2, going 2nd. We've got Blue Farm, a guy named Tommy, I've played a few times from the area, going 3rd. And we had JCat from the Discord. You've talked to him as well on Kinnan on pretty much my list, going 4th. I look at my first 7 and I'm like, cool. Turn 1 Mystic Remora plus Mox Diamond, Lotus Petal, Mox Opal.
Oh Jesus.
It's like, this is gas.
That's disgusting.
This is fantastic. This is a great hand. So yeah, I was super excited for that one. So I get the hand. Immediately they're like, this is a problem. Meanwhile, Kinnan also has a turn 1 fish into like a turn 2 or turn 3 Ristic. And I'm just playing a control game at this point. And, you know, it's a very card advantage heavy pod right now. I'm doing nothing at all that's threatening. I literally have nothing on the board besides mana rocks and a fish. Like, I didn't play a single thing for a long time this game. I ended up playing Talion a few turns later, and I'm just drawing more cards. And we get to this really awkward position where Blue Farm plays a Notion Thief. And in response to the Notion Thief, which, again, keep in mind, Kinnan has a Ristic and a Mystic. I have a Mystic and Italian. Thras Vile is a Thrasios deck that needs to be able to activate Thrasios. Like, that's what they've been going for, you know?
It's a silver bullet for everybody at that point.
It's really, really good. And Thras Vile activates Thrasios, and their card on top was an Orcish Bowmaster that they didn't take yet. They didn't take it yet. They told us, they said, top card is an Orcish Bowmaster. You know, convince me to take this, essentially. Like, let's talk about this for a second. I'm not sure if I should take this here. And I'm immediately like, we cannot let him have a Notion Thief. Then none of us are ever going to be able to fight against him. Like, we do need that. And he goes, are you willing to defend this? And I was like, absolutely, I will defend the Bowmaster. I have interaction in hand. And he specifically says, will you defend it with everything you've got to the best of your ability? And that was the keyword that I don't lie. So for me, I was like, I will not commit to using every single piece of interaction in my hand, but I will absolutely commit to defending it. And he was like, if you're not committing everything, I'm not taking it. And he scries it to the bottom.
Oof.
Which, I talked to him after the game. His mindset was he needed to cultivate a game state that everyone else just went like hellbent fighting over something so he could try and win. So that's what he was looking for. But, and the other thing that really sold it was Blue Farm at this moment had 4 cards in hand. I had 9. But I was very clear. I was like, bro, I have nothing even close. Like, I have nothing that even relates to a single win line in my hand. I've got like 5 counterspells, 2 lands, a rock. You know what I mean? Like my hand's not anything related to winning the game. And you know, because Blue Farm only had 4 and I had 9, he was like, fuck it, let the Notion Thief go. And I think that was a terrible mistake. Because one thing that I think is really important at CEDH, I think a lot of people miss, is, sure, I have 9 cards, I have Italian, I have a fish. Blue Farm still has card advantage with Tymna. It's not like that's turned off. And then Kinnan has a fish and a Ristic. When multiple people have card advantage engines, they fight against each other. The game is able to stay at a level of parity because it's not one person jumping ahead with resource. When you get to a game state that only one person is able to develop and fly ahead, that person will almost always win the game. And because there's a Notion Thief and we're not able to fight against him appropriately drawing cards on things, there's nothing we can do. So I think not taking the Bowmaster was a huge mistake. And I told him,
yeah, especially because you still, you know, the Bowmaster gives you draw punishment that you control, you know, as opposed to the Notion Thief being draw punishment that you don't control. So, you know, to me, you want that Bowmaster. I mean, I understand the implication of wanting the Notion Thief to stay there because you're the one with the least amount of draw engines at that point out of the other 3. But, you know, like we talked about last time when we talked about, you know, playing against Blue Farm, you know, if there's a blue, I don't want one Blue Farm to have a Ristic and no one else to have anything. I'd much rather 2 players have Ristics so that they can fight each other, you know, and all the better if them fighting each other also gives you Bowmaster triggers.
It's literally the same as the fishbowl conversation with my round 2 against Matt Sperling, where I was like, why would you just take me and Rox out of the game and let Blue Farm run ahead? It's the same conversation. Like, letting one deck run ahead just lets that person win and takes away our ability to fight against them.
Yeah.
And it did. And, predictably, it did. And we go around a couple turn cycles, and what do you know? Suddenly, Blue Farm has so many cards in hand he's got to discard because Talion triggers are forced draw. The Thras Vio player played a Seedborn Muse and is like activating Thrasios to try and find a land to get to Kinnan activations, but isn't finding it, so he's drawing them more cards. So and we're not able to draw any additional. So Blue Farm very quickly gets to a absolutely dominant destructive position, to the point that then Thras Vile has to Mystical Tutor for an Archdruid's Charm to try and get Bowmaster or to try and get Notion Thief removal.
Right.
That's where we get to, which is wild. And so then we have to spend all of these cards, all of this mana, this enormous fight to fight over the Notion Thief. That, so we do all this, and we do eventually successfully get rid of the Notion Thief, and then Blue Farm just says, and then we resolve a Wheel of Fortune. Blue Farm, then the Thras Vile player resolves a Wheel of Fortune, which I think was good there to try and get the game to a level of parity, but then Blue Farm goes, cool, untaps, plays a Ranger Captain we can't deal with, cracks it, and wins. But in his win line, there was a very interesting judge call, where he goes through his line, and a relevant thing here is that Kinnan has a Manglehorn. And what happened was Blue Farm Mystical Tutored Savins to the top of his library because he discarded Breach on the wheel. And then he goes to combat with Crom, swings, draws the card. So because of that, we've seen him Mystical Tutor for Savins, and now we know he draws Savins. So on our brain is Savins. And he very quickly, he has 2 treasures untapped, he has 1 land untapped. And he goes Mox Opal, and we say cool, and then plays Savins, because we're not thinking about the Mox Opal, we were just expecting the Savins. And so he plays the Savins, and then he gets back Breach, and then he plays Lotus Petal from his graveyard, and the Manglehorn player goes enters tapped. And I immediately go, oh shit, your Mox Opal was supposed to enter tapped, you should have 1 less mana right now. Which would completely cut off his Breach line, because he didn't have anything else free to do in his graveyard. And prevents the win attempt that turn. And so we immediately call over a judge. And it's a very interesting conversation where, of course, the Breach player is like, we missed it, we move on. And I'm like, do you really want to win the game on a bullshit line that you shouldn't have had? Like, that's not reasonable. We're in a top 16 game. And it's not like a lot of game actions have been taken. The only game actions that have been taken since the Mox Opal are cast Savins, cast Lotus Petal, 2 Rhystic and Mystic draws. That's the only game actions that have occurred. It's not like we have to go back very far. And I ask him, I say, do you even have a line if you do this? And he goes, yes, I have a line, but it's non-deterministic because he has to gamble for LED and he has to not discard the LED. Because if he doesn't discard the LED, then he can play, because that puts him down to 2 mana if he gambles there. So then he doesn't have the mana to cast Savins. So he has to not discard the LED so he can play LED, crack it, cast Savins from the yard for 5. So I'm like, okay, you have a line, but it's non-deterministic. If it was a deterministic line, we wouldn't even have to deal with this. I don't care. But it is non-deterministic, so I do believe we should back this up. And the judge ended up ruling, he's like, I do agree that this game should not be decided by a missed Manglehorn tap. That does seem incorrect. So we decide to walk it back. And the very awkward thing about walking it back here that I saw was the draws. Where what I had been doing was my hand was in a face down pile on the table that I had never changed the order of because I never needed to do anything. So every time I was drawing a card on fish, I was picking up my hand, drawing that card, put it on the bottom. Just doing that. So my hand was perfectly in order. Where like it was literally the 7 cards I drew off the wheel and then my exact fish draws in order. And Kinnan had, I think, been doing pretty much the exact same thing because we weren't really focused because there was the Ranger Captain crack.
I guess the hard part about that though is you are aware of that, right? But is everyone else at the table aware of that is the problem.
100%. Yeah. But so apparently the solution to this, which I think is weird still, is the Thras Vio player, who is the least involved in this interaction, the judge decided, gets to look at me and Kinnan's hands, fully look at our hands, and just thought sees 2 cards.
Right.
He gets to just decide what 2 cards we lose.
Yeah, that's rough.
So he just, because it stops him, he took away my Cursed Totem and my Hellberger Horror. Which, the Cursed Totem was one of the last 2 cards I drew. When I was showing him, I was like, these are the last 2 cards I drew. It was Ancient Tomb and Cursed Totem, which, sure, he takes away Cursed Totem anyway because it stops him, makes sense. But the other one he took away was Hellberger Horror, which was a card I drew from the 7 on the wheel. And it was like my only out to actually be able to win that game. if it somehow, worked back to that position.
Right.
Which that to me, I understand how that is the way it gets worked, but it still feels weird to me that he gets to just look at my hand and just, not randomly discard. It would make total sense to randomly discard. That I get. But to Thoughtseized 2 cards and just get to look at my hand and say, these are the 2 things I think I want gone, that to me is fucking weird as shit.
I've experienced that before. Like, that is how you resolve that. Every time I've experienced that problem. It's just one of those things where, don't miss the Manglehorn. or it sucks for everybody,
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It's a very, very weird thing. So I'm not super a fan of that ruling and how that is. I think a random discard would be way better. And I get the idea that if people draw extra cards or you have to walk back that situation and it's random, you could definitely use that to your advantage and accidentally draw cards or hope to discard something irrelevant. I get that. I do understand that thought process. It's just the double Thoughtseize feels harsh.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because same thing with the Kinnan player, he didn't take cards that were the last 2 cards he drew. He took the best 2 cards in his hand away.
100%.
Yeah. So it's I'm not a super big fan of that. But then, yeah, that was the top 16 game. Blue Farm was able to get the win there. They didn't discard the LED on the gamble when we redid it, and then it was pretty clean from there. We did get to a point that I convinced the Thras Vial player to crack his Cephali Coliseum, targeting himself in this exact moment. I was like, this is the exact moment with the LED on the stack the second time. He doesn't have access to SWAT. He doesn't have the mana to cast any of the things that draw more cards in his graveyard. This is your one chance to crack this and hope you get your Boseiju. That is it. And he ends up agreeing with me and cracking it. Doesn't hit it. Blue Farm wins. Yada, yada, yada. The finals game, this finals pod was wild. On the play, you have Tyler, the Arkham Daxon player. Going second, you have Pigeon from Chaos on Magda. So it goes mono blue into mono red. Going third, you have the Blue Farm player from my pod, 4 colors. And then going fourth, you have Sylvan, the Selvala player, mono green.
Oh my god.
And this was super funny because me and Sylvan were joking at the start of this tournament. I was like, honestly, you want to swap? I'll blind send Selvala, you blind send Talion. And we almost did it. It was pretty funny.
Swap. That's a pretty big swap.
I would have loved a blind send mono green Selvala first time ever playing the deck being round 1. That sounds fun as fuck, dude. Blind sending decks is a good time in a tournament when you just actually don't know what the fuck you're doing. You just got to figure it out. I really enjoy that. But yeah, we talked about it. And I was giving him shit all tournament because I was undefeated and killing it early, and he was not doing well early and ended up sneaking in late. So the entire tournament, I'm like, should have played Talion, bro. Should have played Talion. Could have been you. Could have been you. And then he made the finals and I didn't. And this hilarious. Finals game went like 3 hours. I had nothing else going on that night. My plan was to play Magic. So I was like, fuck it, I'll stick around and watch this game and, support Pigeon and such, buddy of mine. And yeah, this game was cool. You would expect, what was interesting to me was the joke that Blue Farm had more colors than the rest of the table combined.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. And didn't win,
threat
by the
in this
way.
pod
So colors are absolutely a crutch.
Blue Farm did not win this game. They tried a couple times. It was very funny when they put their breach on the stack several times with Savins and stuff, and they were like, let me just have my fun.
Yeah.
And the other players were like, no. But Magda was the threat for the entirety of this game early. Magda was just getting 3v1'd. They were so far ahead. They had a cracked as fuck start. No one else could get anything going. It was kind of wild. And then the game just divulged into this 3-hour game of chicken and bullshit where no one could do everything and everyone kept trying some sneaky win attempt and then it got stopped every time and it was pretty ridiculous. Of course, the blue deck Arkham Daxon ended up getting down the One Ring and Heuristic Study, and card advantage wins games.
Yep.
The funniest play though from Pigeon, which I have to bring up because I told him I would bring him up, was there ended up being a Kite Sail Larcenist, the new blue pirate that turns things into treasures, where it hit his Portal to Phyrexia and some other things from the other players. And on his turn, he top decks Shatter Skull Smashing. And he looks over at this Kite Sail Larcenist 3 times. And he's like, okay, cool. Shatter Skull Smashing, X equals 2, targeting Kite Sail Larcenist. And everyone's like, cool, pass.
Yeah.
That bitch is a 2/3.
Oh, it's oh, that's right. That's right.
And he's like, so he's like, cool, pass. And then, all right, Pigeon looks at things, and Tyler's like, cool, nothing happens. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, it's a 2/3. And Pigeon just smacks himself in the face. It was so funny.
That's funny.
And then finally, yeah, Tyler ended up getting there with a mind over matter when he had the One Ring. And I told him right after the game, I was like, because I was just going in a circle looking at all their hands every time, so I knew what everyone had. And I was like, why did you not go for that the turn before? And he was like, because what happened is he also had a portal to Phyrexia, so he kept trying to reanimate the Grand Abolisher every turn in Blue Farm's yard. But the previous turn, Blue Farm went for his Savines on his Breach, Tyler countered it, and Blue Farm didn't have a counter to counter back.
Right.
So in my brain, I'm like, why did you not just send it the previous turn? Because you knew Blue Farm didn't have shit. You know, the Savala player had already used Beseiju and stuff. They'd already blown up multiple artifacts. Like, pretty much all their possible artifact removal is gone. Like, you were safe. And he was like, honestly, you're right. But he ended up getting it anyway the next turn with a Grand Abolisher that always feels good.
Yep.
Where he lost the Grand Abolisher the previous turn because Pigeon had a Barbarian Ring.
I love that card.
And he missed that. So the second time when he tried to reanimate the Grand Abolisher, he was like, does anyone have any fucking lands that do anything? But yeah, it was a super fun event. Yeah, like I said, it was a good place. Really, really enjoyed the venue. Had a really good time. Really, really liked the judge. Super, super good judge. Which he was like super apologetic too about the whole like double Thoughtseize thing. He said very clearly, though. He was like,
he judged it
yeah, he was like, he was very clear. He was like, I do not like this ruling. I do not really agree with it, but it is the rules. And I was like, that's totally fair. I don't like blame you for this at all.
Yeah. I mean,
super nice guy.
Cool to play another local event. Like I've been enjoying having more local events. You know, this once a month thing out near me is great. You know, even though it's really small, it's just really cool to get out there and play regularly without having to like travel or sit on a webcam all day. It's pretty nice. And you know, shout out to the people over there, the Crimson Kings in Stafford, Virginia, and shout out to DJ Lynx, who actually won the whole thing. So congrats, DJ. Nice playing with you, man.
Nice.
And then in a few weeks, also local, we have a gold event at Fairfax Comics and Gaming, which is where I play pretty much every Monday. So they're going to have a 64-person capped event. So we'll put the link to that in the description below. And I really, really want to see that sell out and do well so that it can become a regular event, see if it can even get bigger. So pretty cool.
If I wasn't going to Saltfest, I would totally.
I know. It's all right. It's all right.
Saltfest is about to be, you know, if you want to go to a bigger, cooler event.
Stop it. Get out of here. But if you're local to the DC area, it's a really great shop, great place to play. And I'll be there, so come hang out with me, come talk to me. It'll be great.
Yeah. I feel like for the Magic tournament on 420, I have to play green, right?
I mean,
probably.
Yeah, you're gonna play Kinnan for sure. For sure. Yeah. I'm gonna play Florian for that. I don't know yet. I haven't decided.
Are you actually?
I'm
playing Ob this coming weekend, I think.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this little cycle of like I played Kinnan, then I played Talion, now I'll play Ob, just like fuck around, have fun.
We'll see how things go at Punt City. Like, I really want to do well at Punt City 3. And I'm almost certainly playing Talion, almost certainly.
You told me you were going to play Kinnan
a
while ago.
I haven't got enough reps on Kinnan. I'm not playing.
I know, but you messaged me when you started playing my Kinnan deck, and you were like, "This is crazy. I might need you to coach me for Punt City 3."
I like Kinnan a lot.
The deck is so good.
Yeah, it's good. But I've been grinding really hard on Talion, trying to get like lots of reps under my belt and get good at it. So I really think that's probably what I'm going to play. And you know, if I could do well, if I can put up a good showing, at that point, I want to shift back to Florian for a little bit and have some fun. You know.
I am pretty excited. Me and Waffle did a huge proxy order.
Yeah.
So we got our decks for the Mimeoplasm only event, which I don't know. Have we talked about this on this channel yet? The Mimeoplasm event?
No, you and I have talked about it, but not on the show.
Yeah, this is happening at Punt City 3. It is a 16-person event where the only commander you're allowed to play is the Mimeoplasm. Yeah. And I signed up for it, and this is a stacked roster. I do not know who some of these people are, but on this 16-person event are Comedian, Scorish, Ori, Waffle, Malcolm Beckford, Jorman, Larry Park, Sergio, Rebel, Scoop, and myself.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
That's like a wild roster for a 16-person event.
Yeah, that's kind of
where we can only play the Mimeoplasm. But so in my order, I got the Mimeoplasm deck, I got Waffle's Blue Farm list, I got Waffle's Dargothras deck, I got Jesse's Timna Jeska deck, I got my Rogsai list, I got Nastrom's Tameshi deck, And I got Sisay.
That's
so wild. I got a bunch of new decks to like fuck around with and play.
But no Florian, so fuck you.
I mean, why would I just play a worse Rakdos deck? I don't
know. People are starting to pick it up, man. People are starting to really enjoy Florian, which is cool.
Yeah. See, I like that you have to be excited that people are picking up Florian when I just get to go to any random LGS in the country and know that people will be playing
sure. Yeah. Whatever. People, sometimes people don't realize where the hidden jewels are. They gotta play the obvious shit. But yeah, no,
for sure. Oh cool. Yeah, I mean, why would you not play the best Rakdos deck? I
said the obvious shit.
Oh, I'm sorry that your deck is obsolete.
No, it's not. It's great.
It's a very obtuse strategy. I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Oh man, I can't wait to play on that playmat though. Then I can.
Dude, honestly, I did use it this weekend.
Do you have it handy? So people got to see it. Hold it up for people to see.
So yes, I did get to play on this awesome new playmat this weekend.
So
it looks
sweet.
It looks so good in person, and yeah. So legitimately, I was like, people were like, "Oh, that's sick," and I was like, "Yo, check it out." And I would pass it across the table, and people were immediately like, "Holy shit, this is so thick!"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's really high quality.
Yeah.
It's really. I told her, I was like, "We did not skip. This shit is so nice." We did the right thing. We didn't take the easy way, cheap way out.
We had a lot of and we had a lot of discussion about this. We were like, we looked at a lot of different people who made playmats, and we're like, we can get it a lot cheaper if we do these guys. These guys, we know who've used them, but these are, they seem like the quality is just going to be higher, but they're more expensive.
So nice.
They're more expensive, but it just seems like it's worth it. Isn't it worth it? And then we're like, yeah, fuck it. Let's send it.
Now that I've been physically using and holding them, it was such a good choice.
Yeah.
They're so nice.
So
and it is cool, like the reaction from people when you hand it to them and they're like, this is the immediately, like, this is the nicest feeling playmat I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because it's just really thick.
Yeah.
It's really good. But so I was especially rewarded on waiting to buy the shipping tubes. Because immediately I roll it up and I try and put it in the normal shipping tubes because I had one left over from when Chaos sent me one, and I had one left over from when Gold Sabertooth sent me one. And not big enough. those are the normal shipping tubes. When you have your 1/16 inch playmats, they get shipped in a 2-inch wide tube. This one needs a 2.5.
Yeah. Yeah, we need.
So it's not like it's not egregiously.
You need the Magnum shipping tube for our extra.
But it's not like egregiously
for extra thick playmats. That's right. Yeah,
it's not egregiously bigger or like annoying, but it's just thick enough that it needed a bigger shipping tube. So I'm glad I waited. They're a little long. The ones I got, they didn't have them in 16-inch length. They had them in 15 or 18. And the mat itself is like 15 inches long. So to be safe, we went with the 18-inch. So it's got like a little bit of extra space in the tube.
That's
where
perfect.
I can like move around, but it works.
Yeah.
It works great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get those shipped out soon. It's just it's a lot, and I'm really busy. Main thing right now is I'm trying to figure out shipping labels, so I can just do prepaid labels and pay it all online, rather than go and wait in line at the USPS store with like 50 packages and do them all one by one, telling them the address.
Oh yeah, so, definitely. You should get.
I want to get
them prepaid and like pack the tubes, put the stickers on, go to the post office.
Because then I can just drop them off.
Scan, and you're done.
No, I don't even have to scan. If they're prepaid labels, I just
drop them and they're gone. Yeah, beautiful.
Drop them and they're gone. That's it. Yeah, so that'll be so much more efficient, so much easier. So I'm sorry. I'm working like every day this coming week, so I'm doing my best here. I promise I'm going to get them out soon. I apologize for the wait.
Well, I mean, I think that's it for today. I mean, we'll have a lot more to talk about next week. I think we're going to let's do Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Is that?
Yeah, we'll do the set breakdown.
Yeah, we'll do a set. We'll do a set one. Maybe we could find someone to guest. I don't know, or maybe we'll just do it the two of us.
Yeah, we'll find somebody.
Yeah,
we'll find somebody.
Yeah, cool.
I like guests. I like guests for the set breakdowns.
Yeah.
They get to shit on all my opinions of the cards.
Your opinions are kind of crazy, a little casual fun.
I don't know.
I love it though.
Start winning more, and you can question them.
Yeah.
Let me talk my shit. I'm having fun. I was at the climbing gym yesterday, and a guy was like, "Man, I feel old." And I was like, "What are you, 29?" He goes, 46. And I just look at him and I said, "Is your favorite invention during your lifetime electricity?"
It's just like my kids, man. You're just like my kids. Hey, I'm not even 46, dude. I'm only 45 for another few months.
I know. Your favorite invention was fire.
I have nothing. I can't even come back with anything. I'm too tired. But
you're good, bro. You're good.
But yeah, I'm looking for. Have you done that mountain thing yet with the razor edge thing that you fall off and die from?
That's in June.
Oh, it's in June. That's right. Okay.
Which I have to figure out which weekend it is to make sure it doesn't conflict with Cowtown.
Cowtown being June 29th, which is interesting, by the way. 256 person event, sold out
in 4 hours.
Less than 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like people like playing CDH.
Dude, thank God we do not have to bother with signups and deal with that.
Oh my God.
it's so nice.
I would lose my mind. I mean, that's what happened to me with Silicon Dynasty. So actually it happened with Punt City 2. So Punt City 2 went on sale as I was on the airplane on the way to Silicon Dynasty. And by the time I landed, it had sold out. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Found a ticket eventually. But at any rate, I think that's it for today. I mean, looking forward to seeing you in person in a week and a half. It's going to be awesome.
I love you.
And my playmat. Bring me my playmat.
What?
I'll
bring you your fucking playmat. I'll bring you your playmat. You're not gonna say I love you too.
I love
Damn,
you
bro. I
too.
see how it is. Damn,
it's
bro.
fine.
Damn, bro. I see how
it's all right, little guy. It's all right.
I've given you a fucking piggyback ride, bro. I've earned my stripes.
Yeah, it should be easier this time around. A little bit lighter.
I mean, also, I've been rock climbing this shit ton. I'm getting jacked again. I'm feeling good.
I got my bench set up over there, pumping iron earlier. So,
what's your max?
I don't know what it is right now.
What do you rep? What are you repping?
I do 225 like 10 times, something like that.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. That's the offensive lineman check right there.
I mean, when I was in college, I did it 35 reps at 225.
35 reps of 225.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Oh yeah,
that is a lot. I think the most I ever did was around 225.
Oh yeah. So I have benched as much as 450.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that is more than two of me. That's pretty hot.
Yeah, and I deadlifted 605 and I squatted 545.
I will say, Max showed me a picture of himself 6 years ago to me. And I call him Dad, and that picture made a change to Daddy. That shit was wild. This man was yoked. You were crazy yoked. Holy shit.
We're gonna get there again. It's gonna be it's gonna be a little bit 6 months of misery, but then we'll get there. So,
you'll get there. I believe in you. Hey, I'm your biggest supporter. I'm right there with you.
I'll post some updates as I go. Once I start really moving, I'll push it. It'll happen quick. The program I'm going into, it'll happen kind of scary fast because I've done it before. So
let's do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, let's go.
But yeah, I think that's all we got for today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Colors of a Crutch podcast. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite. I was joined by the most jacked MTG player from a bench perspective that has ever existed, Max P, the Floralian Man. If you enjoy our show, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Super, super helpful for supporting the channel and our awesome algorithm thing. If you want to support the channel even more, really like our content, we got a Patreon. You can find links to that in the description below. We got all kinds of tiers with all kinds of perks set up for you. If you want to join our Discord, join the conversation outside of here. Also a link to that in the description below. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I also forgot to mention, if you are interested in CDH coaching, you can contact me on Discord or Twitter, Wounded Satellite, for both of those, and we can set that up. It's been an awesome time lately. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and we look forward to talking to you next time.